So it's Chi from Considered Culture, and I'm back again to get back into this Ahmaud Arbery case. And we have the front of the house that he supposedly went into. Well, he did go into. We're about to see that now. If you look at the right of the screen here on the street, you'll see something very interesting. You'll see that he is walking. He's not jogging. He's walking and he's not really looking around like this place is something that he's unfamiliar with. He goes into the front yard immediately, then goes in to the garage. He's in the garage. He realizes, I guess the door's not unlocked, is my guess. So he goes around the back. He does this like he knows exactly what he's doing. He knows where he's going. Now focus your eyes on the top left of the screen as you'll see the neighbor will come out and he's making a phone call. We'll listen to that now.
Glen Brunswick Communications, Operator Smith.
Hey, I live out still stores.
Okay.
There's break-ins out here. There's a guy in the house right now. It's a house under construction.
Okay, do you have your address or that house's address?
Right at 219 or 220 Satilla Drive.
And you said someone's breaking into it right now?
No, it's all open. It's under construction. And he's running right now. There he goes right now.
Okay, what is he doing?
He's running down the street.
Now I'm going to pause it here because he says he's running down the street, and the media has kind of tried to get you to see this as him not knowing if the guy had committed a crime or not, and obviously he doesn't. And the media is also trying to say, well, he didn't commit a crime. Well, obviously he spotted this guy coming out of his house and looking at him. So he's not going to commit a crime once he's been spotted. That's why he does the Usain Bolt up the street. Of course, he's not going to steal anything if somebody sees him. The question is, why is he running like that? He walked into the building. He was not jogging. Again, he walked. We saw him walking. And now he's running very swiftly up the block. Why? To me, it's pretty obvious he was doing something he wasn't supposed to do, and he knew he was doing something he wasn't supposed to do. Now, we need to pay attention to the timeline here, too, coming up, because I pretty much put this as close to the time as possible. Now, you can see that everything is on time up to now, but I can't really gauge when things happened after that. I can only tell you that I know. You'll see that this timeline continues from here. You'll see a sheriff's car come up after the shooting, and that's how I kind of timed it. From that point, I can't tell how much I'm on time or not, but I know I'm working within seconds. It's not like, minutes or anything like that. We're working within seconds probably, and it's pretty accurate to the time. So take a look.
Okay. Okay, that's fine. I'll get them out there. I just need to know what he was doing wrong. Was he just on the premises and not supposed to be?
Stuff on it. And he's been caught on the camera a bunch before at night. It's kind of an ongoing thing out here. The man that's building the house has got heart issues. I think he's not going to finish it. So.
Okay, that's fine. And you said it was a male in a black t-shirt?
A white t-shirt. Black guy, white t-shirt. And he's done running back into the neighborhood.
And now we have Greg McMichael's call.
911, what's the address of your emergency?
I'm out here at Satilla Shores. There's a black male running down the street.
Where at Satilla Shores?
I don't know what street we're on. Stop right there! Is it? Stop! Travis!
Sir, hello, sir. Sir, where you at? Hello? Hello?
And now we'll just wait for the sheriff's car. And there it is. So you can see the sheriff's car doesn't come but a little bit after all of this occurs. So obviously the police were en route. You had two callers who called the police at least. I believe there was a third caller who was a female. And shortly you will see people are the guy who I guess just called got on his bike and he's off there on the left. I didn't bother to highlight that, but you'll see this is just a work truck, probably hooking up electricity to that new house or something. I don't know. But you'll see some ambulances and things of that nature. It's really interesting. I mean, when you throw this thing in time, when you see it in kind of real time, and again, this isn't perfectly accurate, but it's very close to being accurate, you realize that there wasn't a whole bunch of time for this chase to occur that they say occurred. But obviously there was something that went on that we didn't see. So they say that they chased Ahmaud up the street a little bit, and then he turned around, and then he ran into the gentleman who ended up recording. I guess his name is Roddy, and then he ran back up the road. I'm not certain if that happened like that. It doesn't seem like there's a lot of time for that, but that's what the report says that the McMichael said. So we'll see if that ends up being the case. But let's take a look at some maps so we can really gauge how this thing looks from above. So while we're looking at this map, I wanted to just kind of point out the route that Mr. Arbery, again, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, the route he took. So this is Boykin Ridge Drive, which is where his mother supposedly lives, and he probably did this route. I mean, one of these routes would be the best route there. It's 45 to 35-minute walk, so it's probably a little bit less than that if he's jogging, and a lot less than that if he took a car, if he rode with somebody. We don't know. People say he was on a jog. We don't know that for certain. Just because somebody says he was jogging doesn't mean he was jogging. That's all I'm saying. If you got to use the same logic with him and his family that you're using with the McMichaels. If not, then you're being intellectually dishonest, and I can't deal with that. So, I mean, I'm open to saying that he was jogging. He had sneakers on. I saw that in the new video. He does have sneakers on. I know people were talking about he had boots. They are sneakers. But he still had on those cargo pants that were, kind of pretty loose for somebody who would be jogging, who was an athlete, in my opinion. So you have that as well. But anyway, they claim he was jogging. We'll say maybe he was, maybe he wasn't. We don't know. I do know that to jog to this area, it's about a 2 mile walk. They say it's 2.3 miles. I guess that's why people were trying to do this but people don't realize that jog that they did is only half of what he would have had to do, because he would have had to run back, which means he had to run another 2.3 miles. So that's like 4.6 miles of jogging. Does he do that? Maybe. I guess it's not out of the question. I don't know. But, why not stay in your neighborhood? And around here, people jog in circles. I don't know. He jogged across a highway. This is a highway here, so he would have had to cross that highway to get over here to this kind of neighborhood. Why? Why not go to this neighborhood here? We don't know. But this neighborhood is on like a river or something here. So it's real interesting. So let's go into the neighborhood, because he jogged into Satilla Drive. We're going to go take a look at that real quick, and here's the neighborhood up close. So what we saw in the video just a moment ago is him walking. He would have walked, I guess, down this way here, and to this, he kind of walked into this house, took a look at the front, went in the garage. I guess he found that it wasn't unlocked, so he went around back somewhere where he entered this house here. And this is the exterior of the home here, and that was a little bit after this incident, and they got the garage doors on there to close up the place. But it should be noted that this neighborhood had lots of reports, and that particular home obviously had been broken into multiple times before. So this is from June 2019, and it's reports of a theft. So this is just going through. These are scanner updates. People monitor scanners, and they post the results in a group on Facebook. And there's multiple groups like this for multiple cities in America where people just kind of report things that they hear for certain neighborhoods or certain towns or cities. So, I know the police or the reports on the media are saying that there weren't any calls in the neighborhood, but as you'll see, there are multiple. These are a little bit further back than they went, but this kind of goes to show they only went back to January 1st. In December, there were multiple calls, and prior to that, there were calls as well. And in the surrounding neighborhoods, there are even more than that. There's about 3 other neighborhoods in the vicinity. But this is the house that he was spotted in, and when people started calling the police, and we think that up to 3 people called the police. I think it was you had whoever this gentleman was who was about here, living right about here. He called the police. The people next door had the camera on the front of their house, and that's the shot that we're seeing. Of the front of the house. So he's on the phone with police here. Car drives by again this way. As soon as that car passes, he does the Usain Bolt. That's Ahmaud does a Usain Bolt up the street here. And the McMichaels live here. So if the McMichaels, that's about 5 houses down. So from 5 houses down, I don't know if they saw or if this gentleman maybe called them first. I don't know. Maybe they have the camera feed from this house in their home. It's very possible. I have a camera feed to my house. I can view from outside of the house. So it's very possible that they had that feed and they knew he was in the house when he went in there because it's got a motion detector on it. And they say that this gentleman was old and aging and had some health issues. So he may have, communicated with people in the neighborhood. Can you, monitor my home? Especially knowing that Greg McMichaels is a former police officer, that's a possibility. So anyway, they said they saw him on surveillance. So I'm guessing that's probably what happened. They had a feed and they were able to see once the motion detector went off with my phone. It alerts my phone and lets me know there's motion in the house, and then it'll pop up on the screen what's going on. Just like, if anybody's familiar with the Ring security system or similar systems, they will alert your phone. Vivint, I think, does the same thing. There's a couple of companies, probably ADT does the same thing as well. So you get an alert, boom. So they get the alert, and they say that Ahmaud ran up this way and the McMichaels cut him off or something, and he goes back, if I remember correctly, and then the other gentleman was coming this way, so he turns back around, and it's when the McMichaels are situated here, and he runs back up to here, and then he meets his demise around this area here. So that's where all the action goes down. So I just wanted to kind of give you an idea of what this looked like, and now you have an idea of the time that it took for all this to go down. It wasn't a lot of time, and the time it took for a sheriff to get there afterwards, which was not a lot of time, or the police to get there, which was not a lot of time at all. So all of this stuff occurred in a very short window of time, and the McMichaels seemed to know, it seemed like the neighborhood seemed to mobilize around preventing crime in their neighborhood. And maybe they have a community watch or neighborhood watch, and they all have gotten together to kind of come up with a system to try and prevent these things. It actually sounds like this house has been broken into multiple times while construction has been going on. And I think they said it was over $800 worth of items have been taken from this home. So over time, if you have that many items going missing, you're going to start, getting upset. And they said they had seen somebody in the surveillance camera at night. You hear that on the 911 call. So they believe it to be that same guy. And judging from how he just walked casually into the yard, and it wasn't like he just came up and he said, "Wow, that's a nice house there. It's been under construction. I just think I'll take a look." He didn't stop there. He just he didn't stop and think about it. He just walked directly into the yard. And again, he was walking. This is why I don't believe this jogging narrative is going to hold up over time. I think that we'll find that there was something else going on. So the next thing we have to ask is, was all of this legal? I mean, was what Ahmaud did legal? Well, breaking and entering is not legal. And I know a lot of people will say, well, he didn't take anything. Well, the problem with that argument is he was interrupted. So, of course, he's not going to take anything. He saw the neighbor out there watching him. So he ran out. That's exactly why he ran, in my opinion. I mean, why else would you jet out of someone's house that quickly other than because you were spotted? And even looking at, the footage of him inside the house, he kind of looks like he sees someone looking at him. I can't be certain, but it does kind of look like he's looking at someone who is watching him from outside, probably out a window. So, the first, I believe it was the first district attorney, if I'm not mistaken, who wrote this, and I can look again later. I just kind of clipped it yesterday, so I don't recall the paperwork that I clipped it from. But this is the person who recused himself because people believed that he had a relationship with Greg McMichael, which he says he didn't, but he recused himself anyway. But this was why the McMichaels were not arrested originally. And it says, the autopsy supports the initial opinion we gave you on February 24th, 2020 at the briefing room in the Glenn County Police Department after reviewing the evidence you had at that time. We do not see grounds for an arrest of any of these three parties. All right. So they didn't see grounds for arrest. Why? With solid first-hand probable cause, and they had probable cause because they saw him in a house that he wasn't supposed to be in, so they could consider him a burglar, which is a felony. And if they spotted him doing what they thought was a felony, then they had first-hand probable cause. Especially if they had access to that surveillance footage, they definitely had probable cause. Or if they spoke to the neighbor, they had probable cause in their neighborhood and asking and telling him to stop. They did ask him and tell him to stop, as you hear in the video. It appears their intent was to stop and hold this criminal suspect until law enforcement arrived. That makes sense to me. Under Georgia law, this is perfectly legal, right? Now, we can actually look at the law. They give you the law here, OCGA 17-4-60. A private person may arrest an offender if the offense is committed in his presence or within his immediate knowledge. If the offense is a felony and the offender is escaping or attempting to escape, a private person may arrest him upon reasonable and probable grounds of suspicion. Now, the question you have to ask yourself as a citizen looking at this case is, did they have probable grounds of suspicion? And did they have immediate knowledge? It seems that they had immediate knowledge, and it also seems to me that they had probable grounds of suspicion. This, again, is why I do not think that they will be convicted. They may, and if they are, maybe they get a manslaughter charge. I don't see this being murder. So, I mean, people can say what they want, but I'm looking at the law and I'm looking at the facts. You see me here analyzing this stuff very thoroughly. I'm not doing it in a way that's not thoughtful. So the other thing is the guns, and of course they had guns that were legal, so open carry laws allow them to do that as well. So I don't see them doing anything illegal based on these laws that I'm seeing here. Now, I'm not an attorney. People have pointed out that I'm not an attorney. That's correct. I'm not. My degree, my undergrad degree is in journalism. My second degree is in public administration. So I do not have a degree in law. So there's that. I don't know, and even if that was the case, I don't live in Georgia, so there's a different set of laws there. But anyone who lives in Georgia can weigh in the comments. That'd be great. But I think that that is good reason for why they didn't get arrested to begin with. And I think why they got arrested now is because people are protesting, and we have the pandemic in the middle of a pandemic. So let's take a look at that for a second. Now, those of you who know me know that I'm all for free speech and allowing people to protest or do what they need to do. But COVID-19 is around, and social distancing and all of that nature. And these people, a lot of them look like they have comorbidities up there, obesity and elderly and that sort of thing. I don't think it's a great idea. I just don't think this is a good idea. I don't think it was a good idea even if there weren't COVID-19, but now I really think it's a bad idea to be out here protesting under these circumstances. And when we haven't gotten all the facts, and there's the fact that these gentlemen are in jail. Unfortunately, it seems like that's not enough. And again, I don't think whatever the conclusion will be enough to a lot of people. And it's going to be problematic if we have, rioting or conflict between the races, which really isn't there. We're really not seeing this. People have pointed out that people from different races work together every day, and we don't have problems. People marry interracially and have relationships that are interracial, and all these other things are going on. But if we have interracial relationships, and that's not something that people really care too much about, why can't we have interracial conflict without it being racism? You know what I mean? Two people get into a fight, and one happens to be black and one happens to be white. Why does that have to be highlighted? Why does that have to be pointed out? Why does it have to be, if the white guy happens to beat up the black guy, it's a racial beating? The only evidence you have of that are two people are a different race. It could just be that they just don't like each other, or it could be that the black guy did something wrong. Could be the white guy is just an asshole. I mean, that's always possible. Somebody could just be an asshole. So, we can't just go down this line of defaulting to racism every single time just because you like the narrative and the narrative gives you power. And best believe the narrative does give a lot of people power. It gives people power. There's a lot of people who have careers based on this idea that racism is running rampant in America. And because people are getting paid for this, there is an incentive for them to continue. The media likes it when there's outrage, which is why they can continue to try and get people outraged with headlines that don't make sense. We saw that in the first video. I pointed out the headline was there to make you think that this is racially motivated killing. And it just doesn't look like that. When somebody is breaking into a house and the house has been broken into multiple times before, that's not racial. That's because people are doing stuff. And not be, it's not because they have something against black people and this black person just happened to wander in our neighborhood. Let's go chase him down. No, that's not the case. He did something. He obviously did something, and there was a history of possibly him doing something. We haven't gotten previous surveillance footage yet, but if there is more surveillance footage and it is Ahmaud Arbery again, it's not going to be a good look, and people are going to really need to examine how they're responding. Being an oppressed group or a formerly oppressed group, you can't turn into your former oppressors. And it seems to me that that's what's going on in a lot of cases. You have black people who are turning into the racists that they say that they despise so much. There was a time when people would go out to lynch mobs were created with very little evidence. That people didn't wait for the evidence to come out. They just went out there with the pitchforks and and the torches, and we're out there to try and find somebody to string up. And the discourse today seems a lot like that, where we're not waiting for evidence. And this isn't just for racial matters. It's happening with the Me Too movement, and basically anybody who says anything that people don't like anymore. And they can even go back into their past and find things that they don't like, and then they want to do what now is. Clarence Thomas used a good word, a good phrase, I would say. He said a high tech lynching, which is basically pulling you from Twitter, pulling you from social media, pulling you from your job, trying to get you basically to live in a hole and bury yourself from you're just ostracized from the community. That's basically what's going on. They're trying to get people ostracized from their jobs, community, and everything else. And that is basically a high-tech lynching. And that's what we're looking at today. Like it's basically these people and black people who are protesting are fitting this same categories. You're going after people before you even know what the information is. You're going and now that you're finding out the information, you have to dismiss it. So when this video comes out, I'm sure there'll be plenty of black folks in my comments telling me, I'm carrying water for the white man, or I'm doing this, that, and the third, or I'm always taking the white man's side, or whatever you're going to say. But it's not about white or black. It's not about white or black. It's about what's right. What is the truth? And the mob mentality is a horrible thing. You can say multiple times in history, you can point to people running to get those pitchforks and torches to go after somebody based on very little evidence. We don't need to become that. We don't. We need to be able to take responsibility for our own actions. If we're not responsible, and if you're saying that white people are responsible for everything that goes wrong with black people, that basically gives us zero power, and we have a lot more power than that, and you know it. You can't be intellectually dishonest forever. You got to have some intellectual honesty at some point. You got to look at yourself in the mirror and say, hey, we need to make some changes. And this case really highlights that point. And with that, I'm going to say I'm out of here. I'm Chi Brown for Consider Culture.
No more Yaza Baza.